Welcome to Chef Richard's Kitchen. I'm Chef Richard Miller. On this episode today, we're going to make a mixture of kind of an Italian and a seafood, which is not all that unusual, but we're going to make a fettuccine with a creamy white clam sauce. And I've made it before, it's really, really good. And there's a couple of little points to point out, but other than that, it's extremely easy. We're going to make that, and I'm using fettuccine here, the dried stuff. Anybody who watched my crab meat ravioli remembered that I made the pasta and everything else with it. Well, most of the time I use dry pasta as well, as do most places. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make that. And once that's ready, we're going to steam some clams in a butter wine sauce. And they should be really good. So let's get going. First thing I'm going to do is I've got everything over here on the stove. So I'm just going to go over there and we're going to go from there. All right. First thing let's do is we're going to put a little olive oil. We're going to let this heat up just a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in our garlic, and we're going to saute that just a little while until it becomes fragrant. Now, here's something to make sure you watch out for. Garlic is one of those, it's one of those herbs that will really burn easily. So don't get your pan too hot. Don't quit stirring it in there, or it might turn black. And when it does, there's no salvaging it. Just go ahead, just dump it down the drain, start over again. So, all right, there's a couple of cloves of garlic, and I'm going to go ahead and saute this. There, it's turning fragrant right now. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and I have about 10 ounces of chopped clams. Now they say use a couple of those 6-ounce cans usually when making a recipe like this. Well, that's good and that's well and all that. But remember, you've only got about half the clams in there. So when you open the can, you pour off 3 ounces of water. You might, if you're lucky, have 3 ounces of clams. So I usually go with the more restaurant supply cans of clams. You don't get so much water, although there's still plenty in there. All right, let's let this heat up again. I want to boil off and reduce all of that clam juice in there. The clam juice, make sure you save a little bit of that because there's a lot of good flavor in there. I'm also going to put in about 4 tablespoons of butter. There. And I will let this all saute in there. All right, I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to let it boil, and I'm just going to let it reduce for just a little while until it just slightly thickens. All right, our liquid's reduced by about 2/3, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of dried basil. Now, normally I'd probably use fresh basil, but this is winter time and I don't have any growing outside. So I'm just going to go ahead and be content with the dried. I want to put in some dried basil and some fresh parsley. Oh, about a half teaspoon of salt. All right, now if you'll notice, most of our liquid has been absorbed up. So now it's time, we're going to put in, well, cream. And most time when you see a creamy sauce like this, they're actually using cream. In my case, I'm using fat-free half and half. All right. And we're going to let that come back up to a boil again. I do want to put a pinch of red pepper flakes in here, and a pinch isn't going to be enough to actually cause it to be hot. It's not going to give it any heat, but what it is it's going to brighten it just a little bit. That'll help intensify and bring out some of the flavors that are normally in there. All right. Now let's just let it boil again. We've got to put some Parmesan cheese in there that I grated earlier. And we probably may need just a little bit of a cornstarch slurry in there to thicken it up a little bit. And that's pretty much going to be our creamy white clam sauce. Okay, see how that's thickening up? That's just about right. All right, so now let me put in about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. And this will also help thicken it just a little. Now, did you notice before we thickened it, all of the margarine and the basil and all that were, on top just in kind of one clump? Now that we've thickened it up, put our cheese in there, notice it's much, much more evenly distributed. So, okay, let me go ahead and I'm going to turn my little simmer flame here. And I'm going to bring my pasta pan over. A little sprinkle and a little drizzle of olive oil will actually help the pasta to keep from sticking together. All right, let's put our fettuccine in there. Now let it come to a boil and cook it until it's tender. All right, let's start up again. All right, the clam sauce is done and the fettuccine is cooked. So let me go ahead and drain it, and it's time to plate. All right, let's go ahead and plate now. Okay, let's put a little piece of garnish down here. And I also opened up a couple of little clams. We can also use those as a garnish as well. Now the last thing we want to do on this before we serve it is we want to take and we want to grate just a little more Parmesan cheese over the top. Can you use Parmesan Reggiano? Absolutely. Okay, here we are. Now, the only thing that might be better with this is if we made some steamed clams in a wine sauce, which is going to come up in the next episode. So, anyway, once again, thank you for stopping. Thank you for watching. Take care. God bless. Remember that cooking, as I always seem to make it, or try to make it, is fun. And thanks again for watching. See you next episode.